jingle bell rock. Jingle bells time, jingle bell time.
As armies of office workers rely on taxis to get home this Christmas party season, their drivers are quietly uneasy about petrol price rises.
Insane, like everyone is like worried for the fuel price. The fuel price, there is no control on it. It's going up, going up, going up, but our taxi fare is same.
Motorists are paying more than $2 a litre in some parts of Australia.
I come all the way here to fill up my car because I know the fuel price will be cheaper here.
Taxi driver Imrul Hassan sometimes has to fill his taxi every day to meet the holiday demand, which will die off by Christmas, when his clients will be at the mercy of petrol price hikes, bringing back memories of the oil shocks of the 1970s.
Fuel oil from Ampol is now priced at $74.35 a tonne.
When you compare the prices that Australians are paying today to any significant increase or shock period going back to the 1970s and beyond, we have well and truly breached those prices. 2021 has been the worst year on record for petrol prices across Australia. Petrol has been the single largest contributor to the increase of costs of living for Australians this year.
It's not only for the transport industry who are driving taxis, someone driving some other part, right? I feel bad for everyone.
After the world emerged from pandemic lockdowns, demand for fuel returned, but supply has not kept pace. The Organisation of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, OPEC+, have been accused of limiting supply to inflate the price of oil.
Let's be clear, they're manipulating prices. They're in full control of the oil prices. So I don't think there's any doubt that we're subject to a global oil cartel. If I was trying to make as much money as I could out of the oil in the ground, when you're faced with a world of uncertainty, you're trying to keep your options open.
It's forced countries to release their own sovereign oil reserves.
Those releases, they sound really big on paper. So the US, for instance, announcing 50 million barrels being released from their own strategic stockpile. Sounds huge. Actually, it's less than a day's worth of supply for the global economy.
But after recent falls in the wholesale price, the retail petrol industry has faced criticism for not passing on the reduction.
When you look at the average gap between the wholesale and the retail price, which is the closest thing that we can use in determining profit margins, they have also been the highest on record.
We're not arguing with that. The key point to note here is that our service stations have stayed open with all their normal business costs in the face of a 50% reduction in fuel through COVID. So in order to survive, selling less volume with the same business costs, your margin has to creep up. So that's not something that was some sort of conspiracy. It was a market response to demand destruction and businesses having to continue to operate with the same fixed costs.
Economists call that rockets and feathers. And so the basic pattern is when costs go up, retailers will often pass those prices on very quickly, like rockets taking off. And when costs go down by the same amount, we'll find that the prices fall like feathers.
Economists predict that global demand will soon fall, which should flow on to the Bowser.
Really, it's a demand story right now. And the question then is, at what point do we start to see, when we go fill up our cars, that decline in those global prices coming through? It will take a bit of time. It always does. So probably not this week, not next week, but assuming we don't get those prices coming back up, we should start to see a bit of an easing in the pump price over the next few weeks and into 22.
If the oil price was to change today, there's generally a lag of 2 to 3 weeks before that product that's used that oil lands in this country. And depending upon how fast the retailer is turning over stock, sometimes it can be another 2 to 3 weeks before we actually see that fuel at the oil price today flow through to the pump.
Not all motorists are, of course, shackled to the highs and lows of the international oil trade and cartels in faraway countries. There is a small but growing number of motorists who have broken up with petrol altogether, and after a few years of kicking the habit, are now basically driving for free.
had it since April 2017. How far can we get? That depends. If you're going uphill, the weather's cold, you've got lights on, you go less. If it's warm and dry, you go further. The solar here comes for free, and most of the places I charge which aren't here are also free. So fuel costs, zero. Ready to go. I did check back on my records for the old car we had, and we were spending about $2,500 a year on petrol.
Although there are upfront costs for electric vehicle owners like Peter, at least they're not as fluctuating as today's petrol prices.
I'm glad I'm not paying that. I don't have to pay anything for what I use. And that's become more interesting over the last couple of months because the numbers have got bigger and bigger.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.